I couldn't grow my business on LinkedIn for the longest time until I understood 3 specific concepts that changed everything for me. Just like when you're learning any new skill, there's a period of time when you're stumbling around trying to figure things out, you have no idea what you're doing. And what I found out with LinkedIn is that once I was able to understand a few key ideas, everything just clicked for me and I was able to grow my own audience to over 35,000 followers and generate over $1 million in revenue in the last year from LinkedIn. Not only that, but I was able to replicate the same success across dozens of other founders like Austin Hughes, who I helped grow to 18,000 followers on LinkedIn and generate millions in pipeline from the platform. So today I'm going to share those 3 key concepts that put LinkedIn on easy mode, grow your personal brand, and scale your business. The first lesson here is to get as clear as possible in the positioning of your personal brand and to be as authentic as possible in that position. This is something that I see tons of people struggle with on LinkedIn, and it's not just beginners. Even folks that have been posting for months or even years struggle with their account positioning, and it's why their account grows so slowly. So let's fix it. Because if you don't get clear on what your personal brand is and how to actually position yourself, there's a few things that could happen. One, you're going to not attract anyone to you. So if you don't have a clear reason for your target audience to follow you, you're just going to stay stuck in the same position or growing very slowly, grinding it out for months and years, and it's just not very profitable. The other thing that can happen is, say you start growing and building an audience, but it's full of the wrong people because you're not actually giving them the right reason to follow you. You got to be careful with that yourself early on. If there's a topic that maybe gets a lot of engagement but attracts the wrong audience, you're not going to be in a great spot. You'll also see a bunch of LinkedIn personal branding gurus post hyper general content that's pretty fluffy and it gets a lot of engagement. So you look at these folks and it's like, oh, 1,000 likes on this post, 2,000 likes on this one, 5,000 likes on this one. But it's all people who are never going to buy their stuff or don't even have the means to buy their stuff. So it's, again, pretty useless. Now, on the authenticity piece, this is so important because if you're not authentic to yourself and what you actually enjoy posting and what you're credible to post, you're not going to stay consistent at it for long enough. If I didn't like B2B SaaS content and LinkedIn content, there is no way that I could show up here every single week, record a YouTube video, publish it, write a newsletter every single week, post every day on LinkedIn. I would go insane and burn out. So as far as action items here, you've got to get very clear on what you offer and make sure that what you offer is authentic to what you want to be posting about. A simple framework for this is ask yourself the golden question. What's the one reason why someone in my target audience is going to follow me on LinkedIn? Now, once you answer the golden question, how do you actually figure out what to post about? That's a topic for a video in and of itself. But in short, what I'd recommend is start by looking at what's already working. Spend 20 minutes a day scrolling through LinkedIn, seeing what content stands out to you, what content is overperforming. So if a post is getting a lot of engagement on the platform, they're doing something right. And there's something that you could learn, whether it's the type of hooks they use, if there's a specific format or template that they use for their content. Take note of that and apply it in your own content. As you start posting, you want to test and iterate based on what's working and what isn't. So there's a few different things you could test. You could try testing the media formats. You could also try the format of the post. So are narratives and stories performing best? Once you start to see signals of, hey, this post overperformed my baseline. So on average, I get 5 likes per post. This one got 25. Clearly something happened there that made it overperform. How can you take that and apply it to the rest of your content? The third tip I have for figuring out what to post is literally just ask. So make a post saying, hey, thinking about writing content for email marketers or for SaaS marketers. What do you want to hear about? And you'll actually see people reply and comment to you, hey, I want to learn more about this. You should write about this, make a video about this. Another sort of variation of this is you can actually look at your comment section. You're going to get people commenting, both agreeing, disagreeing, asking follow-up questions. Those follow-up questions are great ideas for future posts. So this example here, Dorina, the founder of OpenPhone, made this post about how building an MVP is kind of dead and overrated. And this person in the comments asked, so what's the new version of an MVP in 2025? Is it launching with full functionality or focusing on one killer feature that instantly wins customers? That is a great topic for Dorina to write about in a future post. And you see she actually replied here in the comment section. That's fantastic. She should absolutely do that. But she should also take that comment and turn it into a net new piece of content. As you start to get momentum and people start engaging, you have endless content ideas. And as long as they fit within that filter of your golden question, you're good. Now, a few more quick tactical tips before we move on to concept number 2, which is just as important, if not more important than this first one. So stick around for that. Your headline is another way to reinforce your answer to the golden question. Looking at my headline here, it says building a social media agency for B2B companies. So if someone is running a B2B company and they want to grow on social media, on LinkedIn in particular, they're going to follow me on LinkedIn. So the simple takeaway from concept number 1 is answer the golden question and get clear on the content you're going to post, what your purpose is on LinkedIn. So that way you can make sure that every piece of content runs through that filter and you're building a strategic following that's actually going to convert into customers. Now, this perfectly segues into concept number 2, which is to focus on consistently creating content. You want to create content with specific value because not understanding and implementing this central idea can make posting on LinkedIn, staying consistent, feel super overwhelming, and you're going to feel like you're not getting any traction. You're posting posting into the void. Why is content so important? Well, people buy from companies that they know, like, and trust, and you can build that relationship, that feeling of trust through one-on-one conversations, but that doesn't really scale. Content is the way that you scale those one-on-one conversations. You can build trust. You can get people to like you at scale, like tens, hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people at the same time can be reached using content if done correctly. I can't tell you how many times I show up to a sales call and someone's already read my newsletter. They've already watched these YouTube videos. Like, if you book a call with me, you have seen this video and you know how I think, you know my philosophy on content. It makes the sales process so much easier, but most people get content strategy wrong. There are three main mistakes that I see all the time. The first one is going to be pitch slapping. So every single post is a feature demo, a product highlights, very sales pitchy. It has a direct call to action to, hey, book a demo with me now, book a call with me now. I'm not saying you can't pitch. Again, we want to make money here. We want to grow revenue. That's the end goal of posting on LinkedIn. But you don't get there by being an overly pushy salesman. The second mistake is on the opposite end of the spectrum, and that's chasing clout, not customers. Chasing that engagement and likes and comments, those fluffy vanity metrics we talked about earlier, at the expense of actually making money. So I'll see this happen a lot when founders post very generic, broad, hot takes like remote work versus in person. So be careful that you're not just chasing views and engagement. Yes, they're helpful leading metrics in some cases, but it's not the end game here. The third mistake, I deal with this all the time with the founders that I work with, and that's fear of repetition. Founders have this false idea in their head that once they post a content piece about a specific topic, that's all. They can never talk about it again, or they have to wait months before they post about the same thing again. That couldn't be any further from the truth. Just know that that fear of repetition is misguided. People aren't seeing every single piece of your content. And even if they are, they're not going to get bored of your content because they're following you. They want to see your content. Now, when you're making these mistakes and you're inconsistent with content, you're going to have a lot of trouble. You're going to feel like you're posting into the void. There are a few frameworks that I like to implement with founders who are trying to post on LinkedIn that help them stay consistent and make sure that consistent content output is actually translating into relevant audience growth that's going to make you more revenue. The first one is building a content funnel. So like we talked about earlier, two of the mistakes we mentioned were going too far bottom of funnel, so every post is a sales pitch, and then too far top of funnel by chasing vanity metrics, chasing clout and not customers. The way you avoid both mistakes is by building a content funnel. Top of funnel content is broader content that is meant to get more reach. It's not as targeted, but it does well on LinkedIn. It keeps the algorithm on your side. Middle of funnel content is industry specific thought leadership. So it's not sales pitches, but it is more specific to your category. So if I'm talking about B2B marketing, that middle of the funnel content is going to be B2B marketing thought leadership. Bottom of funnel content, pretty straightforward. This is all your product stuff. So feature highlights, launches, demos, case studies, testimonials, all the stuff that's more of a direct sales pitch for your product. All three content types have a role. One is not better than the other. They're just better than the other for certain things. And you want to have a balance. So in general, as a starting point, I'd recommend 10 to 20% top of funnel, 10 to 20% bottom of funnel. That's a pretty solid balance. So if you're posting 5 times per week, which is what I'd recommend if you're staying consistent, 1 post per week should be top of funnel, 3 posts per week should be middle of funnel, 1 post per week should be bottom of funnel. That way you're both building your audience, building it with a targeted intention and getting the right people in your audience, and then also giving people an opportunity to convert into customers or demos. The second framework is building your content playbook. If you have a format or a topic that overperforms, so again, say you get 5 likes per post on average, or say you get 1 lead per week on average from LinkedIn, but you make a piece of content and that 1 lead per week goes up to 17 in 1 week. That's definitely a signal you should do that again. Or if that 5 likes per post goes up to 30 or 50 or 100, definitely a signal that we should add that to our playbook. And you start stacking plays and having this list of formats, topics, ideas that overperform for you. And that's how you can be sure once you start posting that you're confident that every single piece of content you publish is going to have a decent chance of performing well. And this is how you break through and how you avoid posting into the void. Now, I'm not saying post the same thing every single day, but I'm just saying if you have a winning post, don't wait months to post it again. Use it like on a weekly basis or every 2 weeks, but consistently tap into those winners. Now, a few more tactical tips for writing better LinkedIn content. Tip number 1, spend a disproportionate amount of time on the hook. Think of your hook like a YouTuber thinks of their title. So Mr. Beast is spending hours and hours, if not days, dialing in the title and the thumbnail for each video, the packaging. You want to approach your LinkedIn content the same way. The first 1 to 3 lines of your post is what I call the hook. And if the hook isn't on point, it doesn't create curiosity in the reader, they're not going to read the rest of the post. So you could have this amazing post, but it's going to be buried behind the see more button unless your hook is dialed in. Tip number 2, use relevant media when possible. We post hundreds of pieces of content per week across our clients, and one trend is clear. Posts with relevant media outperform text-only posts right now on LinkedIn. Text-only posts can still do well, and they're definitely not dead. I post them all the time, but posts with relevant media do seem to be outperforming posts without. So tip number 3, create repeatable formats. This creates predictability in your content workflow and reduces friction. So if you have to sit down every day and think from scratch, what am I going to write about? That's really hard. I've written thousands of pieces of content, and it is still hard to think of something from scratch. But if I have a framework to work off of, so say, for example, I do a third-party breakdown, like this case study I did on the Technology Brothers podcast rollout strategy. If I know that, hey, one post every single week is going to be this sort of third-party breakdown where I take a content strategy or marketing play that a brand or people ran that worked really well and give my take on it, that eliminates the guesswork in my content. Another example would be the style of lead magnet posts. So if you see that these do really well, like for Austin, this got over 400 likes and over 2,000 comments, you can just do one of those per week and be reasonably confident that, hey, this piece of content is going to do well. This goes back to the idea of the content playbook we mentioned a few minutes ago. But my point is, when you have repeatable frameworks and series in place, it one, reduces friction for you, but another underrated benefit, people start to know you for this type of content and they look forward to it, and it creates predictability in your audience as well. Now, as far as creating content goes, those are some of the biggest levers that you can pull and mistakes to avoid to grow your personal brand faster and generate revenue from LinkedIn. If you actually use these consistently, you'll have more inbound leads than you know what to do with. By the way, what I'm teaching you in this video is some really high-level LinkedIn game, but if I'm being completely honest, this is really just a fraction of the knowledge that I have on LinkedIn and the playbooks and strategies that you could use to grow your audience and generate pipeline and revenue from the platform. So this will be a bit of a shameless plug, but I have a newsletter that I write every single week that has deep dives and strategies and playbooks that you could use to grow on LinkedIn. I go in depth with real examples from my clients and other folks on LinkedIn that are winning on the platform. And I'm constantly sharing my newest and most cutting edge strategies. If you're interested in that, there's a link in the description you can click to subscribe. It's totally free. ReadSocialFiles.com. Just go to that link in the description, enter your email, and you'll get that deep dive every single week in your inbox. If I'm being honest, I really should be charging for what's in that newsletter, but it's free. I want to give it away. I want to see you win on LinkedIn. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to grow on the platform, check that out. Now, for the third lesson, this is something that's helped me generate a ton of business, and it comes naturally to me now. But to be honest, when I first started on LinkedIn, this was tough, and it was really hard to get right because a lot of beginners want to jump into making the sale right away. But LinkedIn isn't just about posting content and waiting for new leads and business and revenue to spawn from the ether. You actually have to do engagement yourself. People buy from companies they know, like, and trust, and content helps you do that, and getting in conversations via connection requests and DMs helps you do that. But when you first connect with folks, they don't know you. They haven't seen your content before. So if you come out of nowhere and say, hey, buy my stuff, or hey, book a demo, it comes off as very transactional, and you don't actually build a relationship. If you're not commenting on people's content, you're missing out on a lot of those profile visitors. What you've actually got to do is, one, spend time engaging with people on LinkedIn. This could be either commenting or sending connection requests. And two, when you do so, don't just start off with pitching right away. Focus on it from a long-term perspective and build a relationship. Here are a few tactics to keep in mind. One, comment without expectation. Again, the goal is to play the long game here. A lot of times when you first connect with folks, they're not in the place to buy your product. The goal isn't to brute force them into being ready to buy. The goal is to keep yourself top of mind for when they are ready to buy. So get on their radar, make sure they know you exist, and then add enough value so that when they're ready to buy and they need something in your category, you are the number one option. The second tip, less comments, but better. I'm not saying you have to go spend 3 hours per day writing comments. I'm not saying you have to send 30 or 50 per day. You probably shouldn't. That looks spammy. Send 3, 5, maybe 10 high quality comments per day on accounts that are relevant to you and your content. That's going to go a lot further than spamming. It's the same thing as in cold email. Sending 100 highly personalized emails is going to get you a lot more in return than sending 1,000 or 10,000 mass spam emails. Third, allot 15 to 20 minutes per day for commenting. Like I just mentioned, you don't have to spend all day on the platform. You're a founder, you have a business to run. I don't expect you to do this for hours and hours per day. You reach a point of diminishing returns. It's not even worth it. The fourth tactic here, create a target account list. You don't want the commenting to be random. You want to make sure that you're commenting on people who are either potential customers or folks that your potential customers are following. I'll talk about this more in a second, but you want to create a list of target accounts to make sure you're intentional with your comments, especially on LinkedIn. Right now, if I scroll through the timeline, a lot of these people are not super relevant to who I'm trying to comment on. So if you're just relying on LinkedIn algorithm to serve you relevant content to comment on and reply to, you might not be getting in front of the right people all the time. But if you have a simple spreadsheet of say 15 to 20 accounts that you want to build relationships with, you want to engage with. That way you can make sure to comment on their posts when they're going live and really build relationships with the right people. Tip number 5, there are 3 types of accounts you want to engage with. 1, your ICP, so ideal customer profile. These are people who could potentially be customers. This is the most obvious option. Second is going to be industry peers. So there's other folks in your industry that are also posting content. You want to go comment and engage with their stuff and build those relationships. So for example, if you're in email marketing and you know another person that's writing about email marketing or direct to consumer marketing, you want to start engaging with their content. Or if you're also in B2B sales, you want to go engage with other B2B salespeople. The third type of account is going to be ICP influencers. So for example, I'm in B2B marketing. If I want to get in front of B2B marketers or founders that care about B2B marketing, I'm going to comment on people's content like, I don't know, Dave Gerhardt or Adam Robinson or Chris Walker. Because if I'm commenting on their content, people in my target audience are also seeing their content and they're seeing the comments. So if I'm leaving thoughtful comments, not just spam in their comment section, that's another way to get in front of people who could potentially become buyers. Now, tactic number 6, respond to all inbound comments. So if people are commenting on your post, respond to every single one of them, given they're not AI. It's a great way, 1, to help your post do even better in the algorithm, and 2, it gets that person to want to keep commenting. So if I'm commenting on a creator's post and they're just ignoring me, I'm not going to keep engaging. I'm not going to feel the need to show up the next day and comment again or engage with their content. So you want to reward the behavior you want to see. Now, you got to be consistent with your engagement. You can't just show up one day, leave 30 comments, and assume that's enough. You got to show up daily, weekly, and really monthly to see the long-term effects and benefits of engaging with others on LinkedIn. Think about building goodwill on LinkedIn and that intent to buy, like building your bank account balance. You can't just show up on day 1 with nothing in your bank and withdraw $100 or withdraw $1,000. You need to build up that balance. So engaging with other folks, posting your own content, that's all building up goodwill on LinkedIn. It's building that bank account. When you're ready to make an offer or try to convert folks into customers and you make a very direct bottom of funnel post asking to book a demo or book a call, you're withdrawing money from that bank account. You've got to make sure that you're investing in that and putting money in so that way when it's time to make an offer, you have resources to pull from. And finally, understanding this concept was one of the biggest needle movers in my business and allowed me to get so much more traction and momentum on LinkedIn than if I was just posting content and never engaging with other people and actually building relationships. So try it out. So if you've been struggling to grow on LinkedIn, go and take these 3 concepts and apply them on your own. And I guarantee you'll see a drastic improvement in the performance of your content and the amount of opportunities and business you're actually able to get from the platform. Now, the poster child for these 3 concepts executed to perfection is Adam Robinson. He's been able to build his 2 businesses to $24 million in ARR, largely off the back of LinkedIn. And he used these 3 concepts. But there's also a lot of stuff I didn't get to in this video, and I have a whole other video going even deeper into Adam's playbook. It makes it crystal clear how he was able to use LinkedIn and founder-led content to scale his 2 businesses to $24 million in ARR. So click here to check out that video where I go over Adam's entire playbook in depth so you can take those same lessons, apply them to your own business and content strategy, and use them to scale your business faster. I'll see you over there.